On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, what is soft savings? So, welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law and main sound engineer for the Crushing Debt Podcast. And with me, as always, in studio is your co-host, George Corbello. Welcome, George.
It's an instant blooper reel if you know what we were doing before trying to get this thing to record. But yes, happy days, my friend. It's good to see you in person. And let's see, is there any issues from a money situation? Dude, I think I'm gonna be done with cars altogether because like my wife, I love her. Happy Mother's Day. Everything is great around that time of year. But she almost had maybe had a heart attack. Of course, she calls me in the middle of the night. She's working late. So, hey, honey, I don't know where my key fob is for the car. And I'm like, okay, I already have enough issues with one car. Now you're telling me we're about to add to another. She found the key fob, but I was like, for 5 minutes, I was like, oh my God, another expense that I just don't want to handle at this point for cars. So we're gonna be all biking soon. That's what I'm gonna say. So, let's go get ourselves an electric bike.
So we're getting into school's almost over, and by the time this episode comes out, we're within a week or so. And so my younger son, I've signed him up for 2 summer camps already,
Nice.
2-week-long summer camps. My older son, I think I know what summer camps he's doing, but I haven't signed him up for him yet, so I need to do that. But then my younger son came up to me with a 3rd and a 4th summer camp that he wants to do. And I'm like,
Nice.
dude,
Don't worry about the budget.
yeah,
Just
no,
Dad, you
no,
work overtime. Don't worry about it.
no, no, thank you. No. So, and one of the summer camps is actually he's doing a summer camp on computer coding and computer issues.
Nice.
And then the other one that he wants to do is on robotics. And I'm like, okay, maybe I guess they're kind of different, but I don't know.
It's different, but
he'll probably end up giving me those puppy dog eyes, and I'll sign him up for the other one too.
Hey, and they're going to tell you that there's this thing after the class, right? There's this thing called the Nintendo Switch 2 that they can also apply those things that they learn at camp and game all night. So, Dad, come on, those puppy, it's coming. It's coming.
And so we bought my older son his cell phone when he was in between 5th grade and 6th grade. Yeah. So when he was going into middle school, and the thought process was, you're going into middle school, you're more independent, you're riding your bike around the neighborhood.
Nice.
You need to have a cell phone. So my younger son knows that he's going to get one, but my younger son is now on his 5th iPad.
Oh, wow. Okay. He's pretty good with that.
6th iPad. And like iPads number like 3, 4, and 5 were all the same one, but just when he would smash the screen, we would get him a new one or replace the screen.
Yeah, of course.
And we finally got to the point where we replaced the screen so much that we were like, forget it. So just buy you a new iPad.
Right.
So of course he's on his way back from his grandmother's house, from my mother-in-law's house, and she texts me in advance, don't be mad.
Right away. That's like set up.
Like, okay, I'm gonna be mad, but what do you got? He broke his iPad again, and this screen is like smashed so much that if you rub your finger on it, you slice your finger into a bajillion pieces. And so now I'm thinking, if I get him a cell phone, I probably need to get one of those Otter boxes.
Yes.
And then wrap the Otter box in bubble wrap.
Yes, again.
And then wrap the bubble wrap in like packing peanuts.
Sounds good.
And then wrap that in bubble wrap.
Box. Just leave it in the box and have it connect via Bluetooth.
Yeah. Dude's goes through electronics like he goes through his underwear.
Love kids.
So, what are we talking about today?
Well, it's this title, soft savings. I thought I was going hard. I was going hard all day, but what's soft savings? What are we talking about when we talk about soft savings? I think a lot of folks, if you do a Google search, because that's everything on the internet is correct. It's all about thinking about the now, right? So soft saving is kind of like not going aggressive when it comes to your savings now. And it's these young whippersnappers that, are thinking differently, exactly. They're everybody's thinking differently because a lot of the stuff that we hear in the news is kind of like, and it's kind of worrisome, right? The retirement age is being thought about, like, you should work till basically till you die. But, because again, average age, what is it? The average life expectancy is in the 70s now, 73.
Yeah, 70
so
something.
Let's get you working till at least 70 before you collect Social Security. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize, like, boy, like, is that the way we want to live life? Right. So, as the younger you are, you're kind of like, I want to live now. We want to live for that standpoint, but still be responsible for what we need to do saving wise for the future. But, soft savings doesn't seem like we're going aggressive when it comes to that approach.
Yeah. So this one article that I found, soft savings, where's the definition here? Soft savings, it means rejecting the hustle culture and instead trying to live without stress, struggle, or major challenges.
Right.
So I guess no kids, no job.
No. You still got to, you still got to have those, but
well, then
it's just a different way.
How would you live without stress if you have kids?
Well, that's true. Well, it's a different level of stress. I think that's what they're true. But I love that. Again, good definition, right? Mindset where some of the folks itself emphasize the present, the experience, the now, rather than aggressively saving for the long-term goal. That makes total sense in regards to what we think of as soft saving. Now, but what gets you into that mindset? What is it that gets you, thinking about the now? Sometimes we have life events, life things that kind of put you in that situation where it's like, I can't think about tomorrow because, we just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, kind of thing. Especially, let me talk to my 20-year-old and say, hey, let's talk about you 60 years from, like when you're 60, what do you have to worry about? No one's thinking in that manner.
No.
But there has to be some type of plan in place to get you at least starting to be more, because again, time is always on your side. How can you be a little bit more, again, I say aggressive to be able to plan for that future? But when you're that young, like you don't even worry about like a year from now, let alone try to say, what are you going to do the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. Nobody that young really wants to think about retirement. They don't want to think about health issues. Nope. They don't want to think about adulting.
Yeah.
Which
me too.
And that's not a criticism. I mean, we were that age at one point as well. And
it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. But this, for example, regular exercise, healthy eating, and an enjoyable job would take precedence over buying a flashy car, climbing the corporate ladder, or trying to build an empire. So it sounds like soft savings is more the intangible of because I didn't buy that flashy car, because I bought a more affordable car. If I were going to spend $300 a month on an affordable car and $700 a month on a flashy car, well, maybe I'm able to save a little bit of that $400 deficit.
Right.
So it's more of an intangible, more of a conceptual.
Well, I mean, think about it too. You have everybody, we grow up, right? Go to college, all these kinds of things for that 9 to 5, right? That corporate kind of life, have that steady income coming in. Whereas if you're doing a soft saving in that mindset, it's kind of, you go with the flow, the freelancer, the person, I don't know if it's a side hustle in a sense, like a Uber driver or something like that, but you want to dictate more of your time towards the work that you need to do and the money you make. And then of course, having more time to be able to dedicate to things that you enjoy, life, going out and traveling and things like that. So I could see the benefits, but how long can how long can that mindset really, or how far can that mindset take you is where I was trying to go with that question. But it's interesting where I get it. Like we get into that mode where it's like, do we want to work 40 years, 9 to 5? And that's all you're kind of looking forward to? Or I take one vacation a year for a week, and that's the rest of my life for the next 40 years. A lot of people worry about that kind of thought process.
Although the flip side of that coin is, I only take one vacation or maybe no vacations for 40 years, but then I can retire at 50 or 55 or 60, and then I can spend from 60 to 70 or 60 to 80 or 50 to 70. I can spend that time having fun. I work. What was the meme that I saw? It's something like I work hard today so I can live the life I want tomorrow,
right? Or
something like that. So that, I think, is the flip side of the coin. I mean, if you're doing a soft savings and you're into, and I get it, what I do every year at the beginning of the year, I read a book called One Word. I've talked about it on the show before. And I pick my word for the year, and that word governs everything I do for the year.
Interesting.
And this year for 2025, my word for the year is alignment. And so I want everything to be in alignment. And I can kind of feel when things are not in alignment, it stresses me out.
Sure.
And so there is something to the soft savings, the soft life of, yeah, I want to live in alignment. But at the end of the day, if I can work hard and save up the money, then I can live the life I want to live. Then I can retire. But I guess the issue is, why would I want to save up and have fun from 50 to 70 when my body is starting to slow down and break down and whatnot? Why not live that life now?
Yep.
But then that might cause me to work until, I drop dead at my desk.
Yeah, and that's the fear. I think a lot of the folks nowadays is, let me show you paint you the picture, right? We talked about last week in regards to like student, or last few weeks maybe. Well, anyway, student loans, right? So that's looming on a lot of folks when it talks about, young kids and, planning for the future. The living costs, everything's going up, right? The dream, the American dream of owning a home seems to be far distant for a lot of young folks nowadays as well. Then the economic uncertainty. You have all the news and the doom and gloom out there, but if we look at the prices, things are still pricey. Buying certain things, even rent, owning a home, rent, all of those things seem out of reach for a lot of folks as well. So that kind of stuff puts a lot of stress to, like, I want to adult, but am I going to be able to adult, just working at Target or working at a retail store itself? Or, what do I need to do now that I have this BS or BA in whatever it is, to be able to then translate that into a salary? Because again, I got to pay the bills, I got to pay rent, I got to pay. So there's a lot of stress, and people are like, what is it? If you have such a stressful start to the adulting life, you're telling me that I got to do this for the 40 years and then hopefully I get some rest at the end of the tunnel.
But at the same time, the more that I'm talking to you about it, the more that I'm reading about it, hard savings, that's, I cut expenses by X%. I put $300 a month away. Hard savings is easy to quantify.
Yep.
It's easy to measure. Soft savings is a little bit more touchy feely. It's less.
It's mental health,
right? But the two aren't mutually exclusive.
I would agree.
I can still work hard and save money, but still value. Perfect example. So as we're recording this, we're before Mother's Day. When this episode comes out, it'll be after Mother's Day.
Correct.
But my mom's on her way into town for the weekend for Mother's Day. So I'm going to work hard until she gets here.
Yep.
And then once she gets here, work is done until she's gone.
Correct.
Because I want to spend time with my mom and I want my kids
to
spend time with my mom.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So
yep.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive.
See, and I think I love the example, because for us, that's your definition of work-life balance itself, being present for family, so you can work hard, put in hours, and do what's necessary. But when it's time to be present for that situation, you're there. And I think a lot of us there seems to be, it's either one or the other. And I don't think that that's the case. Mental health is definitely important, but you have to know yourself and what you can handle. So if you can handle 12-hour days and still be able to juggle, those being present with family and things like that, some of us are not made that way.
Yeah.
So we try to sometimes push ourselves beyond our limits, not realizing that actually has a mental, physical impact on us. So what do we need to do differently? I think recognize what you can handle and then look to implement small and subtle changes so that you can, again, maybe soft and hard or whatever you want to call it itself, like what's important to you. If saving for the future, even at a small level, it has to be important, because again, no one's going to help you. There's not going to be a lifeline at the end of the tunnel if you don't help yourself.
Not everybody has a great Aunt Edna that's going to die and leave them with $1 bajillion.
I would love, all of us to be in that situation, but not all of us are that lucky, to have that. So we have to create our own wealth. We have to create our own situation. You can't even guarantee that the government is going to be there to provide you the Social Security. Right. And especially at this age, my 20-year-old, the young ones that are coming up and being adults in the new workforce, there's no guarantee that in 40 years those kind of safety nets are going to still be exist.
No, exactly. So I did a search here about soft saving tips.
Ooh, okay.
And again, it all seems to be exactly what we're talking about.
Balance.
Identify spending and saving priorities.
Yep.
Identify what's important and what those goals might cost. And so you might say, I don't need the fancy car.
Yep.
But I'm going to put a financial goal in to save up so that I can afford the affordable car. And I'm just going to enjoy driving around the affordable car.
Yep.
Or, set smart financial goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant,
Yep.
time bound. Automate savings, budget for experiences.
Yes. So I called those for my clients, it's that guilt-free spending category.
Right.
Have it where budget for fun. You can be very hard when it comes to your finances and the importance of your goals and prioritizing. But if it's important to you, just like your time, right? Budget time for spending with family, budget time with your money for fun. So it's okay to have that within the budget, but it has to have limits. And I think that's the thing you have to avoid for me is, if it's an excuse for spending, you have to be careful. And you have to identify that as like, okay, it's okay to have that in the budget, but it's not like, hey, I only budgeted $350, but this month I spent $1,000. Like that's not, again, have fun within your limits when it comes to that kind of spending.
Yeah. I mean, that's, in thinking about my goals, I've got 4 or 5, let's say 3 to 5 big goals that I want to accomplish every year. But one of those goals is a personal goal. How many books do I want to read? How many vacations do I want to take? What do I want to do? One of my goals for the last year that's carried into this year, one of my goals is to get off of some of the diabetes pills, blood pressure pills, some of that stuff, and getting more sleep. And so I've finally figured out how to cure the insomnia. And so hopefully sleeping better will lead to managing sugar better, which will lead to help to come off these pills. So this concept of soft savings in my mind, it's just a new term, but it's not a new concept.
No. And I think, but that became a priority for you, right? These goals are not priorities. What value, again, why these goals, right? Why that priority itself? It's going to make your life overall better. You might actually, and I wouldn't say you will make more money because you're feeling better. You're mentally sharper. There's certain things that puts you in a position to be able to make more money.
Well, and I just happened to renew so I take 2 diabetes pills. Every day. I take one in the morning, take one at night. The one I take at night, I just renewed $75. So even getting more healthy has a direct impact on the budget, in that if I can cut out the medication, that's $75 that can be spent somewhere else.
Exactly.
So even soft spending creates opportunities for, I guess the opposite of soft saving would be hard saving. So even soft saving brings up some opportunities for some hard savings.
Right. Well, and that's what's some of the things, for me, mental health, physical health, less money, right? You don't have to worry about them. That's more money you can put somewhere else, right? So these are all benefits that we're seeing there, but you're still living with intentionality, right? There's an intention for, if I'm going to be healthier, that means I can do more, not only to the work, right? You can make more money, but you can be more available for the kids to do stuff with them. And so I understand what the importance would be, but you still have goals to say, if I put aside some money each year to be able to, prepare yourself, put yourself in a position where, once again, you can take care of yourself rather than having to rely on the government, your kids, anything like that. For me, the biggest thing my scare is being a burden on my kids. I don't want to be a burden on my kids. And I have to be able to put certain things in place that, in 15 years, our house is paid for. I have the health insurance. I have, things that cover us in case mom and dad are in a position where they can't take care of themselves. Like, for me, that's more important. That's why I save for that future, because again, I went through it. So for like, but how do you tell that to a 20-year-old? Like, hey, how do you, like, you need to prepare for the future when you feel like you're invincible.
Mhm.
The only mental grief I have is like, oh my God, I don't have enough followers on social media right now. Again, I'm kidding, but but I think some of the stress that we see in regards to college, picking the right college, paying for college, those kind of stresses, I get it. The mental anguish is there. We have some issues that we got to deal with,
Yeah.
but those are choices you can make to make it easier on yourself. Start with, affordable college, getting a degree that gives, like, what's the value ROI that you can get back on the, things like that you have control of when you're that young. And yes, saving a little bit, even if you save 2%, it makes a big difference in regards to what you're doing when you're 20 than it is when you're 50.
Well, and I think it's important, especially with my kids, you with your girls. I do think it's important to teach them about hard saving. Save now, put it away, save it for retirement. It'll be there when you need it. But
the rainy day's coming, guys. I'm telling you, it is.
But that can be forced, for lack of a better word. In other words, I think back to my wife and her grandfather, and her grandfather would buy her a savings bond every year on her birthday until like her, I don't know, 15th, 16th birthday.
Sure.
I'm still cashing them. I'm still finding savings. I have them all where I know where they are, but I'm still cashing savings bonds of hers every couple of years that her grandfather had bought for her.
Nice.
So there is a way to almost force a hard savings on the younger generation. Now, if they decide to do it themselves, even better.
No, and again, I've opened your a kind of annuities and Roths for the kids, getting them prepared. They don't understand any of that. But what I'm trying to, provide them is this, like, in the future, you will thank me. It's one of those. So as parents, that's what we can give back to them is the lessons, is the information that they can use to be able to grow. Even if you're struggling, let's assume even if you're struggling, your kids are seeing you struggle. That's lessons that they're taking as part of their journey as well. How us as parents can find ways to be able to give them, that situation be better.
You reminded me of something that actually happened to me. So last night I was doing my bills for the month.
Sure.
Which is actually kind of interesting. When my father passed, my mom does the bills, I think, like once a week.
Okay.
So she'll get like 2-3 bills in and she'll pay them. And I have to keep telling her, Mom, you have a grace period. You have a due date. You don't have to pay the bill right when it comes in. So I kind of do the opposite. I save up all the bills, and then the first weekend or the first week of the month, I'll go online. I'll schedule all my bill pays. I'll do all my automatic payments. I make sure I'm in line with my budget. Yeah, I know. I do all that. But meanwhile, my younger son was watching me do the bills yesterday. And so I have an issue going on with my house where I've got to do a fairly big construction project at my house to start. The foundation's actually sinking a little bit. So I got to I hired a company to do some foundation repair at my house.
Sure.
But, so I had to move some money into checking to cover. So I put the deposit on a card, and then I had to move money into checking to pay down the card because I did it for the points. But meanwhile, there were some fairly big transactions in my budget in terms of money in, money out. And so my younger son is watching me, and I see, when I have the balance of here's how much money I have this month, and 5 figures, and his eyes go,
"Whoa, Dad,
we're rich." And I'm like, "No, we're not rich."
Well, I got money,
right? I got money. But then watching his eyes at the same time, because basically all of that money went out,
go somewhere else
to pay the bills, and I left myself, whatever, $1,500 cushion for the month.
Sure.
But it, all that money went out, and so to see his face, to watch my bank balance go from 5 figures to like low 3 figures, and to see the expression on his face, and
like, damn, Dad.
So we don't have any money, Dad? I'm like, yes, we have money.
Dad, do you need me to work, Dad?
Right. I need you to go out and
go get a hustle.
That's, on top of my other son who's still trying to collect and sell golf balls and clean garbage cans.
Mr. Entrepreneur. We know where that one's going.
So now he knows. So they never knew garbage day. Now they know garbage day.
Nice.
Because that's when all the garbage cans are out, and that's when he can go around cleaning garbage cans.
Dude, smart kid.
Yeah.
Smart kid.
I give it to him. But, the more we talk about it, the more I just can't help but think soft savings is a concept that's been around forever. It's just now we're putting a label to it.
And again, I think we're in that time period where people are struggling, and everybody's trying to figure out like how to navigate through some of this financial tough time that we're going through. And I think people are just saying, F it. We're at a point where it's like, I need to live and enjoy life today. And because there's no guarantee, for tomorrow. I mean, again, we understand that. But I think being responsible adults that we want to be, we have to enjoy life today, but we have to put ourselves in a position where we're ready for tomorrow. And I think that's some of the things that we need to really consider. I would say for me, the biggest thing you have to avoid in these situations is don't make it an excuse for overspending. Like, don't go into debt because I got to live for today. I'm going to enjoy today. I'm going to go and not worry about what's debt's going to look like tomorrow. Again, delaying also investing and saving, like the rainy day, it's going to rain. Even in Florida, it's going to rain.
Definitely going to rain in Florida. Yeah.
But in delaying investing and saving because we feel good or mentally, of course it's less stress because you don't have to worry about making the money to do those things. But I guarantee you, as you get older in your adulting life, you're going to get more stressed. You're going to go, oh my goodness, what did I do? Why did I, slow down, or why didn't I start? So I think these are the red flags you have to really be aware of when it comes to, just taking advantage of your youth and the time you have and just starting somewhere. You don't have to be aggressive, but start somewhere.
Well, and, so I pulled up here, soft savings, things to avoid. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that came up was overspending on experiences.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense. And it's stuff we've talked about before. In other words, if I'm going to go away on vacation, this happened when we went away for spring break.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to go on vacation. And I forget which one of the kids it was said, well, if we forget that at home, we can just buy one when we get there. I'm like, no, let's prepare and let's bring what we're going. Now, if we accidentally forget something, I get it.
Different story.
But to say I'm not going to pack a bathing suit because I can always buy a bathing suit when I get there. Well, the bathing suits at the hotel are going to be very expensive. The bathing, you're going to have to find a Walmart, and then that's going to take time and driving around with gas and buying a new bathing suit when you got a perfectly good one at home. So, I mean, again, it's all about the planning, the preparation. And we've talked about this kind of stuff before, even especially now that I'm dating again, overspending on experiences. There's nothing wrong with, going on a picnic in the park.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a 5-star meal at Burns.
Dude, my man, I think we have a future episode on dating and money because we did it before. I know we
did it before.
But I'm gonna try to bring in social media because it's gonna. I already have an idea. So yes, okay. But again, these are the things like you have a great idea of like, okay, let's dating can be a different experience, but I guarantee you, it depends on who you're dating because there will be different expectations when it comes to, especially you boomer. It's okay when you're old and, fuddy-duddy and stuff, but a lot of the young kids today who are not adulting, there's a different mindset that you have to consider when it comes to that.
So glad.
Sorry, I threw under the bus, but
I'm so glad I'm not young and dating right now. I would have no idea what to do.
It's okay. It's okay to be old and not knowing what to do from dating. So
I'm definitely old and don't know what to do. But
love it, man.
Soft saving may make it difficult to find money for sudden expenses, but again, they're not mutually exclusive. No. So you can say to yourself, and I've done this plenty of times, my goal is to save X amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. And once I save X amount of dollars, I'm going to blank.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy myself a new book. I'm going to buy myself. I signed up for that company that sent me the whiskey smoking kit.
Yeah.
When I sign up for this, when I hit this goal, I'm going to get myself this. And it's not going to be, I've told this story before. My first birthday when I moved to Clearwater, my first birthday after I moved to Clearwater, I was alone. I was by myself. I went, it's probably not a very good story, but I went and I bought myself, you remember Things Remembered?
Yeah.
The store that I don't even know if they're around anymore.
They are.
They engrave. I know the one at the mall near me shut down years ago, but I went and I bought myself an engraved flask with my initials on it.
That's sweet.
And
it's a nice gift for yourself.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of used it until it didn't work anymore, but it was a nice gift at the time. Sure. So in other words, I got myself to the goal, and then I rewarded myself for the goal as a balance.
Yeah, that's okay. And I think a lot of us tend to forget that we still respond to those types of rewards. And when we talk about goals and priority, if you have those in your life, what are some of the rewards that can accompany those? Because again, we got to motivate ourselves. Right. We need something to pull us. Like when we achieve this goal, well, what's next? What's the next thing that's going to motivate us for that kind of thing? And sometimes those kind of rewards, within reason, within limits, within budget, allow you to be able to stay motivated and hungry when it comes to the business, when it comes to personal, mental health and things like that. Rewarding ourselves, like, oh, I went to the gym, let me reward myself with a nice movie or something like that. Like just little things like that.
Another practical example just happened to me earlier this week. I was able to get really caught up. I was able to get kind of at or ahead of where I wanted to be in terms of projects and workflow at the office. And so instead of leaving my house at 7:30 and rushing into the office to get more work done, I went for a run.
Nice.
I went for a 5K run and just had fun.
Nice. Again, little things like that, right? And the thing is, find ways to motivate yourself during the, like you like listening to certain music while you're running. That's a good motivator too. Some people like they're on the treadmill or any of those kind of things, and the elliptical, and it's like favorite podcasts, like the Crushing Dead podcast.
I actually listened to our latest episode while I was running. But then when the episode ended, I put on music.
There you go. So find ways for different ways to be able to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself mentally sharp. But it's one of those kind of things. I don't think there's a decision, like it's one or the other. I understand why we're in that mode, but I think especially for our young folks, the entering the adulthood, find ways to have that balance. I think that's going to, have you really be successful with what you're trying to do with your finances.
And I think in all fairness, that's where the criticism of the younger generations come in, because I think people are focused too much on the experience and not enough on the other practical goals. And I'll give
hustle is real, but
I'll give the younger generation some credit. Like I said, these two things are not mutually exclusive. So they can prioritize the experience as long as they say, well, my budget for this vacation was $1,000 and I ended up spending $5,000. Then soft spending is a negative in that scenario. But if they say my budget was $1,000 and I spent $900 and I still had a great vacation and I was able to save $100, or even the other way, my budget was $1,000, I spent $1,100, but I had a fantastic time. I'm actually even okay with that.
That's okay as well. I agree. But finding that balance is always going to be interesting. But we're not saying don't have fun, don't enjoy life, don't take or having that balance. It's just, again, what's that true balance that you have to have as part of your financial journey?
Exactly.
And can I just say though, if you're struggling in any way to balance that, that life, enjoying the now and saving for the future, there's this guy I know on CorbelloFinancialCoaching.com who can help, and it's a free consult. So, why not?
Absolutely. He can help. I the other day, just thinking about some of the stuff I've done the other day, I had a really hard day. And so I actually went out onto my back patio. The boys were inside trying to kill each other, apparently. Mm-hmm. I was on my back patio. I had a glass of bourbon and I had a book that I'm working on. And I just sat in quiet and read my book. And they weren't killing each other. They were good boys. But I sat and it was probably an hour's worth of time. And it was an hour that I was able to zone out, drink a nice glass of bourbon, and read a good book. And that's all I did.
What a great, for me, I would add the cigar a little bit, but but yes, those are the little things that you work that hard. You could work 12-hour days and just have those moments. And again, I'm there with my wife. Chris is there, and we're just sitting there and enjoying just each other's company. We're talking and, just, again, BSing. I was going to, but BSing and just making fun of our neighbors. Yes, we do that. Sorry. But it's one of those guys. That's how we enjoy. We enjoy each other's presence, but we're not out and about. Like, we're going to the club, we're going to this. It's like, no, we could do it in simple. I mean, you work hard and have a house or a place to live itself, and then you don't get the time to enjoy it. Like, it doesn't make sense for me. Balance is real, guys, but finding that balance is always difficult for all of us.
Well, and putting a really cool title on it, like soft savings, is also really, really important. So, well, I'm glad. I had never heard, when I first heard the term soft savings, I thought, hard savings is I put $100 away every month. Soft savings is I thought about it.
B.
So, meanwhile, what is not soft savings, what is actually hard savings, is if you wanted to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/crushingdebt. That would help us out tremendously. Also help us out if you just share the episode. If you like it, just share it with somebody that you know, or share my website, George's website, whatever. That would also really help us out. We also want to thank our longtime friend and sponsor, Sam Cohen with Attorneys First Insurance. If you are, or if you know a title company or attorney that needs malpractice coverage, contact Sam at attorneysfirst.com. Other than that, anything
fun episode, my friend. Anything that's we learned something new about the mindset, and no making excuses for the young generation. We want to say that they're they've got it hard, or they have it soft, or they're they don't have the mindset, blah blah blah. It's good to understand where people are, and seeing appreciating that their struggle itself, and again, where can we provide help? Well, at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. Is we all want to be successful.
Yeah, and even though this episode kind of started, or the idea for this episode started with kind of a bash on what the younger generation is doing, I think it applies to all of us equally. I don't think it applies to, this applies whether you're in the 50s, 60s, 20s, 40s, 30s, whatever age you're in. I think all this stuff applies. So
I agree.
Definitely something that will help you have more month at the end of the money rather than money, or more money at the end of the month rather than month at the end of the money. Good Lord. How many times have I said that? Money at the end of the month, not month at the end of the money. And we will talk to you in next week's episode of the podcast.